our history. Buildings and people and memories and dreams. Who better to tell us than those who were there? There's so much to learn from the stories they'll share. Living history. Living history.
Hello, and welcome to Living History with Ted Goldsborough. Today we're at the Beaumont Retirement Community in Bryn, Mawr, and we'll be listening to the interesting life story of Mrs. Gladys Baker Reynolds Monier. Hi, Mrs. Monier.
How do you do?
So glad that we could be together today. Thank you for participating. We have, what we're going to do is we're going to look at pictures together, and if you'll tell me what you remember about the picture, where it occurred, then I think the people in the community will be interested in your life story. And we'll start with this picture of a woman and a child, and I wonder if you could tell me about that.
Well, that's something I wouldn't remember.
Because?
I was just born.
You were the baby.
Exactly. But this is where we first lived, here in Kinwood. And so I, of course, don't remember anything because we only lived there a very short time.
Okay. What street was that on?
That was on Pemrook Road.
Pemrook Road, okay.
And amazingly enough,
the house is still there.
Yes, it's there, and it still has the
diamond.
Yeah, the way it's built is interesting. I would be surprised it was still there.
Yes. Here's another shot of that house, and thus it must have been built around before 1914, which was your birth year, and you were a baby. So I don't know exactly when it was built, but it was before 1914. And then your family had a house on Bala Avenue. Could you tell me about that?
Well, that was where I remember the most. We lived across the street. And that house is no longer there. It's where Bala Avenue and Conshohocken State Road come to a point, and that now is a couple of houses, but there was a big old house there, and that's where I lived when I was quite small. And then we moved across the street to where my grandmother and grandfather lived, and that was a big house with a lot of ground. So that's the house I really remember, and that's where I was married from. And so it was a lovely house to live in and grow up in.
And that house is still there also?
It is still there.
Yeah.
It is now the unevangelized mission.
Yes.
And they have built other houses on the property so that the missionaries can come back and stay.
Mm-hmm. What did your father do when you were living in that house?
He was a stockbroker.
In the city?
In Philadelphia.
Uh-huh. And how did he get there?
By train, which was right across the street. And in those days, it was run by coal. And when the wind was coming from that direction, it was awful. The soot was terrible.
From the steam engines?
From the, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And
wow.
So Mother was always delighted when it wasn't coming from that.
The wind.
Yes, because we had so much soot on our windowsills and in our bedrooms. And,
before air conditioning?
Oh, yes.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yes.
Let's think about that for a second. In the summertime when it was hot, how did you keep cool?
Well, fortunately, we were away in the summertime.
Okay.
We went down to Ventner, New Jersey.
Okay.
And so that was a big help. But no, you had no air conditioning. You hoped that you had breeze that would blow through, and you closed everything up in the middle of the day to keep out the heat. So we survived. It's much more pleasant now, but...
Yes. Did you have any oscillating fans?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Did you have siblings living in this house with you?
Yes, I had one sister that very close to my age, just 15 months younger than, and we were great pals and great enemies growing up. And then I have a much younger sister.
I see.
But she was so much younger. She was 7 years younger.
I see.
So she didn't partake in all the things we got into and did.
Yes.
But we were on a very steep hill there, and so it was wonderful sledding in the wintertime. Eventually, my family built a swimming pool, so that, and then I went to Kinwood schools, and I was allowed to go to Kinwood school because our property went from Bala Avenue to Kinwood Road, and had an entrance and exit on Kinwood Road.
So you could take the back way to school?
So we walked to school. No buses in those days.
Yes. But you could get to school, I guess, without going on Bala Avenue and Bryn Mawr Avenue.
Oh, no, we went out Kinwood Road.
You're right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Okay.
then
Lodges Lane and...
Yeah, we'd pick up other friends on our way.
I see.
And if the weather was really bad, we usually got a ride then. But there were no school buses taking care of the people then.
Yes. Now, even in first grade, second grade, you would walk to school?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Did Mother sometimes walk with you?
Oh, yes. You had somebody with you then.
All right.
And
this looks like a big house. Your Bala Avenue home.
Oh, yes.
Did your mother have some help?
Yes, in those days, most everybody had help. And when you read stories about people living in farms, they usually had somebody come in and help. So it was a very natural thing to have help then. And a lot of it was live-in help. So that it was, instead of the way people now seem to come in just by the day, but in those days we had live-in help. And we had a cook while I was growing up. There was an Irish lady, and she was a wonderful cook, but she wouldn't allow us in the kitchen. So I never learned to cook. And when I went to Kinwood school, we had presumably cooking, but all they did was teach us how to make mayonnaise, which is not very practical.
No. Where in the house, I mean, would they live in the garage or the third floor or the basement? Or?
Well, they lived in the third floor for a while, and then Mother and Dad built an addition to the house, which gave them, it was on the other side of the kitchen, and it gave them bedrooms and a small living room, so that they lived there, which was very nice.
Were they considered on call, like 24 hours a day, or was it?
I guess I don't really, they were always there.
Okay.
And most of them were Irish girls, and when one was going to get married or leave for some reason, they had a friend that came over from Ireland, so that it was very pleasant. They were a lovely group of people.
Did they get any days off during the week?
Oh, yes. Trying to remember which day, whether it was Wednesday or Thursday usually, and then every once in a while it would be a weekend, or but or Sundays they would get lunch and then leave for the rest of the day.
Okay.
My mother never cooked, and Dad occasionally cooked because he grew up in Illinois in a minister's home, and they did things quite differently out there. So Mother did do one thing. She made wonderful cookies, and that's the only thing she ever cooked.
Now, at holiday times, would family come in?
Oh, yes. Yes. We had plenty of room, and my father's, he had 2 brothers and a sister. The sister lived nearby, but the 2 brothers lived in New York. It was 3 brothers, excuse me, I'm wrong. They all lived in the New York area, but we saw a lot of them. And his father, who was a Methodist minister, moved east from Illinois and came, so we'd see him quite a bit. He lived till he was 98. So he was a very interesting man, and he loved farming. And he had a dog. We had a great big old beech tree in our front lawn, which was a marvelous place to play as we were growing up. And the dog used to climb up there with us. So it was a great house to live in and enjoy.
On the summertime, would the servants go to Maine or where the summer home was?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Mother didn't drive, and there was a family that lived in one of the cottages on the property. He was the head gardener, and he had a son who became our chauffeur, so to speak, because Mother didn't drive.
I see.
So, and he had a sister. His father, unfortunately, died of an abscessed tooth, because in those days they didn't have penicillin. But the mother of the family and the 2 children, when they were growing up kind of with us. But
did they stay with you after the father died?
yes, they kept in that house, because the young chap, as I said, became the chauffeur, and it was they were there till the house was sold.
In those days, we didn't have Social Security, and you didn't have minimum wages and workman's compensation.
No.
But in a way, your family helped to take care after the husband died.
Yes.
So you supported them in a way.
Yes. Yes, because they were a very nice family, and I used to be very embarrassed, because when I went to Friend Central School, I call him John, was his name. John used to drive us to school, and he was made to wear a chauffeur's cap, and that used to embarrass me terribly, because John was kind of a pal of ours.
Yes, yes. With the servants, did you ever play with them, or they play with you, if they were similar age?
The daughter we never saw too much of. She became a secretary, and then I saw her when she was older and John was ill, and I became quite friendly with her. But she moved away finally down somewhere in the South where she had family.
I see. I think the name of the unevangelized fields, which is the name that I recall, has changed to Cross World, is what they're calling it now. We have an aerial shot of the property. We have the map that shows the property. S. Ross Campbell was the family name, and the property that you referred to across the street on the triangle, where the Mawr Memorial Stone is. And this is very close to the Kinwood train station. And then we have some pictures of children, and I wondered if you could tell us who those children are.
Oh, it's myself myself and my sister Nan, who was the one that was close to my age.
Okay.
And those pictures, well, the one picture is down in Palm Beach where my grandparents had a home, and that was Sunset Avenue, and it wasn't even paved then. So I used to say I grew up with the Indians in Florida.
And these are with, well, who are these people?
Well, there I am with, I guess it's Karen, my daughter, and my husband and my husband's family, and my mother, and my father isn't. Yes, he's there.
Okay. So this would have been around 1937, 36, 37, approximately. 36. And what town would that have been in?
It was right there at Kinwood, where I grew up.
Okay. And you said for some years you went to the Kinwood Elementary School?
7 years they had elementary school then.
Okay. And if you'd, instead of going to Friends Central, if you'd have continued in the Lower Merion School District, where would you have gone after Kinwood?
Ardmore Junior High School.
Okay.
And you went there for a couple of years, and then you went on to Lower Merion High School.
And after you married, you settled in the Lower Merion
Yes.
community?
Oh, yes, in Derwin Road. And my children went to Kinwood School. And it was very nice because when they redid Kinwood School, they added on 2 very modern ends to it. And fortunately, as I think, they tore those down and made the school look like it looked before, only larger.
Yeah.
So that the central part of Kinwood School is the same as it was way back.
So you had at least 2 generations go through the Kinwood School because your children went there also.
They
You
went
and
there.
they went.
Then they had the junior high school was where it is now.
The Balakinwood.
Yes, across
Yes.
from the Academy building.
Yes.
And the playground was there between that area. So there was a lot of activity around that area, I guess there is now.
I think you mentioned earlier in the summertime that if you were home, that your family had a swimming pool.
Yes.
Was that unusual in Balakinwood or Lower Merion?
I don't remember. It was great. We loved it. But they had a lot of trouble with kids coming in at night.
Yes, yes, yes.
And swimming.
Yes.
And they caught them one night. They were changing their clothes, so they left their bathing suits. Dad used to always chuckle about that. So that was just one of the only bad things about the swimming pool.
Yes. Okay. Now there's a picture of some horses down on the beach.
Well, that's down at Atlantic City. They used to have horseback riding. I don't know whether they still do or not, but they had horseback riding on the beach. And so my sister and my husband's brother and I used to ride there. And my husband had never ridden very much, so his horse kind of took him out to sea, and it alarmed him. But my sister and I have ridden a great deal because we used to go to a ranch in Wyoming, and we had our own horses too here at the Philadelphia Country Club. They had stables at that time, and they also had a polo field. It was the old club down on City Line.
Yes. Wow. So you had horses off of City Avenue.
Yeah, and you rode in the park.
Oh, Fairmount Park?
Yeah.
Oh.
And then you went across the bridge at Henry Avenue and went down on Wissahickon.
Oh, boy.
So it was very...
Couldn't do that today. All right. Now, where were the sunbathers? Where were the people?
Well, this is wintertime.
Oh.
They don't have horseback riding in the summertime. No.
Okay.
No, that's wintertime.
All right. Thanks for that. Now, there's a picture of a boat and some houses.
Yes, well, this was, we called it the thoroughfare. This is where we had our place, and eventually my husband and I took over the house there. And it was right on the water, and we had a boat, that's our little boat. And the houses across the thoroughfare, if you look carefully, you can see they had places under their houses where they kept their boats, which was interesting, and I think they still are. Unfortunately, the house that we lived in has been stuccoed in the ugliest thing and looks terrible.
I see.
And the playground that we used was across the street, was a school. But the school's not there anymore. It's now a bunch of apartments or condominiums, I'm not sure which. So that has changed. But we had a wonderful time because you could swim in the thoroughfare in those days.
I see.
It was pure enough. And we did a lot of, we had a big old canoe with air chambers on the sides.
Yes.
So it wouldn't tip over.
Good.
So my family let us go out into the meadows because it wasn't built up across the way.
I see.
And we used to go out crabbing, come back with a canoe full of crabs scrambling around.
Wow. Now, what community was this?
This is in Ventner.
Ventnor.
Ventnor, New Jersey.
Okay. Could we talk about what Balakinwood was like as you were growing up?
Very different. There was no Egyptian theater. I don't know whether it's called Egyptian now or not.
Oh, the Bala.
But it's called the Bala Theater. There was as you went down Bala Avenue, there was a grocery store, and where the little road goes up a steep hill.
Highland Avenue.
It was above the grocery store was a big room, and that's where they had movies. Saturday afternoon, I don't know whether they had it any other time or not, but we used to walk down there to the movies, and it was wonderful. They had a woman that played the piano because they were silent movies, of course, in those days. She played the piano, and we thought this was a great treat. Then they built the, called it the Egyptian Theater, which was very fancy in comparison to the other.
Yes. And for the audience's sake, you did not have television?
Oh, that's for sure.
How about radios?
Yes.
Okay.
You had radios because you listened to the radio.
All right.
They were not very good, but it was what you had.
Yes. Now, what else was on Bala Avenue?
There was a hairdresser and a hardware store and various other small grocery stores, or up at the corner there was a big grocery store, and then that became a automobile place where they sold automobiles.
Later on. That, for the audience, that's Don Rosen today, but in your days that was a grocery store.
Yes.
And it was very handy because you lived only 3 or 4 houses from that intersection.
Correct. And the post office was across the bridge, across the railroad, on the opposite side from where it is now. And then eventually they built the new post office, which was wonderful.
So you could do a lot without having to get in a car.
Yes.
You could grocery shop, hardware store, movies, post office.
King's
Drugstore.
Which was right there next to where the post office is now.
Okay, over the bridge.
And it was famous for its soda fountain, and it had it didn't sell any food except ice cream and sodas and whatever. But Dr. King was famous for having made castor oil palatable. And so when somebody was going to have a baby and it wasn't coming up fast enough, that you'd go and get your dose of castor oil from Dr. King.
Wow.
so he was famous for that.
What else would be sold in a drugstore at that time, besides ice cream and pharmaceuticals?
A few other things.
Okay.
Gradually, more and more came into the drugstores, but they were principally pharmaceuticals and the soda fountain.
Okay. You went to the grocery stores, but if you wanted fresh produce, where could you get that?
Well, there was where Merion, where the lovely homes in Merion are now, that was a big farm. And you went there until, well, till really winter time. And they had wonderful fresh things. And I remember going, they had a kind of a little store there, very small, with a coal stove, and I used to love going with Mother when she went there. And there were a lot of the people that worked around there lived down in Pencoed. And they also were members of the Balakinwood Methodist Church, a lot of the people from Pencoed, which that church was very small in the beginning. Well, in fact, it started above the firehouse in Kinwood, and then it branched off, and they built small. Now it's where the big church is.
Okay, on Levery Mill Road.
Yes, yeah, next to St. John's.
Where was this produce market? Like what streets? What part of?
It was sort of catty-cornered from where Kinwood School is, and that was all farm in there. And then it was taken over, and those lovely homes were built. Meeting House Lane and whatever.
So hard to envision today that there would be a farm in there when you were a kid.
Yeah. Well, where I went to school and eventually lived, that was, it had a big barn and a couple of cows, and we went past that every day. I never knew I was going to someday live on that property.
On Howe Road, or no?
No, on Derwin Road.
Derwin Road. Thank
so
you.
that they were, my husband and I lived in Alden Park at first because he worked over there. And it was on that side of the river. Then we moved back because it was, all our family were on this side of the river. And it was interesting because there were 4 houses built. There were similar houses on Derwin Road, and they were the first new houses built in Kinwood after the Depression. And now, of course, there's a lot of building and no more farm, but it was interesting that having passed that farm, walking to school every day, eventually I lived property there.
Mrs. Monier, thank you very much for your interview. We've really enjoyed it. And please join us again next time on Living History with Ted Goldsborough.